Now, for more on the Bring Back Our Girls campaign, we are joined live from Abuja, Nigeria, by our correspondent, Sophia Adengo. Good evening, Sophia. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, are the Bring Back Our Girls campaigns making any headway?
Well, you know, being a part of this week's global action to bring more attention to the missing girls, we were part of today's ribbon tying ceremony in which the Bring Back Our Girls activists moved or marched through the Abuja city tying ribbons all across the city, really in a bid to create more awareness. 24 months after 276 girls were abducted, 219 still remain in captivity, and the efforts of Bring Back Our Girls have indeed been, well received, especially with their online presence, garnering this global attention to, point to the fact that these girls have not been found, that there has not been any trace of where these girls are and how these girls can be rescued or brought back to their families. So Bring Back Our Girls has made headway in terms of providing some kind of awareness or constant dialogue in terms of advocating for the girls' return. However, it's sad to report nearly 2 years later, on the 14th, tomorrow, the girls still have not been found. And, the Nigerian government appears to be no closer in providing information as to where the girls really are. Tabile.
And it's a good thing that you mentioned the government, Sophia. Now, the federal government of Nigeria has so far rejected media reports that Boko Haram is demanding around $50 million from it as ransom before releasing the Chibok schoolgirls. Any more developments on these reports?
Well, over the last 2 years, there have been constant conflicting reports about exactly what Boko Haram would want in exchange of the girls. But what we do know is what watchdog groups have been, taking away from the videos that have been released by Boko Haram to the public, which is oftentimes, the leader of that sect, appealing to the Nigerian government to perhaps maybe negotiate and provide, a swap in which the army can provide, the members of the group who are incarcerated released back into Boko Haram's, fold, and the girls handed over. But of course, everything at this point, Tabile, continues to be speculative. The Nigerian government has said through President Muhammad Buhari that they are indeed willing to negotiate. The parents of these missing girls advocating that President Muhammad Buhari do everything that he possibly knows how to do in terms of engaging Boko Haram in the return of the girls. But as of now, the numbers fluctuate. The circumstances are always speculative. And at the end of the day, the negotiation process is perhaps privately understood by the Nigerian government and whoever purports to have the girls at this time. Tabile.
Have the families of the abducted girls spoken about reports of ransom demands? I imagine they are beyond frustrated now. It's been 2 years.
Well, our first-hand account in meeting some of the parents is always extremely emotional. These parents have traveled from northern Nigeria to come to Abuja to advocate here in the administrative capital and to really plead with the Nigerian government to provide any kind of information as to where the girls are, either collectively or in partnership with international communities. What Bring Back Our Girls has managed to do is to, leverage their reach internationally in order to place focus on these communities in the local government areas that have been affected, like Chibok. And it's also a very interesting point to note that about 17 parents have died since the girls have been abducted in various forms. And oftentimes, it really just goes to show you the broader perspective of how vulnerable not only these communities are in terms of access to humanity, in terms of being able to be, taken through a school system, but also when they do try and cooperate with the government, the end result is what we have seen through the abduction of the 200 girls, which is repercussions of, not being able to comply with the government and being punished for it. Tabile.
Sophia, the Chibok schoolgirls are not the only ones that have been abducted by Boko Haram. Are you able to update us on reports of more kidnappings in November 2014 in the remote fishing town of Damasak that reportedly left hundreds of school children missing?
Well, Damasak and the greater northeastern geographical region, which is really Borno State, Adamawa State, Yobe State, are all these areas that have fallen, especially in 2014, under a state of emergency in which Boko Haram was, pilfering these communities and openly ransacking and burning down, taking into their fold women and children. And it's these constant, attacks that we're able to have almost 14 local government areas under Boko Haram control, and continuous abductions, not only in Damasak, but in Baga, in places like, Delori, that have seen a full brunt of Boko Haram's activities. It is now a much better picture, the Nigerian government tells us, in that Boko Haram has been pushed back. People have speculated that perhaps the group is living within the, the forested areas known as the Sambisa forest, but the local government areas have been recaptured, and that there is no local government, area that is remotely controlled by Boko Haram. So therefore, going forward, there seems to be a more positive message coming from the Nigerian government. However, there is still this missing piece. Where are the 219 girls? And at the end of the day, how do we get them back home?
Now, a would-be bomber arrested in Cameroon recently had told investigators she was one of the 270 abducted in Nigeria in 2014 by Boko Haram. It turns out this was not true. What do authorities make of this?
Well, as you know, this area is deeply conflicted. The United Nations agency, UNICEF, putting out a report that almost a jump of 11 times the usage of girls under 18, being used in these frontline attacks as suicide bombers. I mean, it is alarming, the numbers that are coming out in terms of displacement and eventually what happens to these vulnerable groups. A 60% increase from 800,000 to 1.3 million children really goes to show you that these, these children can be used in various ways by Boko Haram. And so the perpetration by this young girl in claiming to be one of the Chibok girls was perhaps a last straw effort on her part to, protect herself or to find some kind of solace and protection from the Cameroon government in terms of not carrying out the activities of Boko Haram. But as you know, Tabile, it is still one of those very difficult situations to really take in, especially under the backdrop that perhaps this could be Africa's largest displacement crisis having been seen in many years. Tabile.
Now, just finally, Sophia, we understand a team of British specialists were deployed with spy planes not so long ago in the search for these girls and other missing children and adults, I assume. Any results from this search?
Well, at the moment, it's very difficult to report on these government findings. What we know so far is that we cannot report on any findings until the government comes out to substantiate them and to endorse them. But what we do know is eyewitness accounts continue to say that they are indeed these lone wolf attacks that do happen, and on occasion they point to the fact that these communities are still very vulnerable and very apt to kidnappings, to violence, and the complete aftermath of Boko Haram within their communities. Tabile.
Sophia, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for that update. That was our correspondent, Sophia Adengo, joining us live from Abuja, Nigeria.